Hi, I'm Simon. Thanks for tuning in to The Ordinary Filmmaker. If you're new here, subscribe to get notification of new videos like this one so you don't miss any news, rumors, gear reviews, or tutorials. And by the way, I'm giving away a brand new Canon EOS R5 full-frame mirrorless camera to one lucky viewer. Details are in the description down below, or you can watch this video here, but essentially all you have to do is subscribe for your chance to win. Like all contests, there are some legal terms and conditions. Go ahead and take a look at this video here, then go to the description down below and it'll talk about blackout periods, age limits, and that sort of thing. All right, before I get into this week's questions and answers, here's a quick news recap. Canon released a firmware update for several cameras, but the updates for the Canon R5 and R6 got the most attention for what wasn't included. Despite expectations for C-Log 3, Cinema Raw Light, 120 frames per second in 1080 for the R5, and hopes of all eye and that 30-minute record limit going away, it was a rather low-key firmware update, but it did address several issues. There were some solid fixes, like the intervalometer being fixed. There were further stirrings of Nikon and their financial troubles. Nikon's owned by Mitsubishi, so they do have deep pockets. The only question is, how tolerant is the parent company with continued losses? Here's hoping that Nikon can turn things around in 2021 with the Z6 or the Z8 or Z9, whichever it's going to be called. There was also a large-scale fire at AKM Semiconductor, and it was to one of their chip plants. As a result, we could see further pressure on camera availability of all Japanese camera manufacturers, which is pretty well all camera manufacturers. No further details were forthcoming. And I also released several gear reviews. I gave a deep dive into the Crane 2S gimbal, so if you're interested in gimbal technology or just checking out Canadian forests, I recommend giving it a look. I also did a review of Ulanzi lights and tripods, the same lights that you can see behind me illuminating my, well, bookcases over here. So, without further ado, it's time to answer your questions. The first question is from Epix Eccles. Eccles? I'm not sure if I'm saying that right. Anyhow, Epix asks, Simon, do you suggest going from a T5i to the RP? Such a simple question, well worded, but it's so difficult to answer. I'm going to flash this slide up here. This slide here kind of helps tell a story from two perspectives. I have no idea, Epix, if you're a video shooter, or if you're a photo shooter, or if you're balanced in between. So what I've gone ahead and done here is I've gone ahead and put the T5i on this chart that I use. And what the different colors mean is, well, green is for DSLRs and red is for mirrorless. So you can see that you're looking at one camera, which is a DSLR, and the other is a mirrorless. Now, in terms of photo and video capabilities, well, you can see right here that the RP far surpasses the T5i in both photo and video capabilities. And if you look at the RP, it's not far behind the R. The R is just that much better in photo and video capabilities. And then, you know, to really jump up in terms of video capabilities, you're looking at something like the 90D. So once you've kind of answered whether you're looking at primary photo use cases or video use cases, then the next thing you really want to ask yourself is budget. Now, if you buy L series lenses and you have some already, those will migrate over to the RP. If you have any EFS lenses, they will also migrate over. So you're able to bring your lenses with you, and that's very helpful if you've already got a lens inventory because you can start using them right away, and all it costs is around $100 for that adapter, which I think I have over here somewhere, but the adapter is $100. It's $200, I believe, if you want the extra, I'm losing my words here, the gadget. It's the extra thingy. Anyhow, let's just forget, I can't remember the name of that little device on the side of it, but you're looking at $99 to bring those lenses over. But the one thing I'll say is when it comes to photo, the EOS RP is going to be so much better. It's a full frame camera. Right now it's Canon's entry-level full frame mirrorless camera. So your photo quality is going to be so much better. Dynamic range is going to be better. It's going to be quite the stunning camera. Now video, well, it's not rich in video capabilities. You will get more video capabilities out of a camera like the T5i or the Canon 90D. What I might suggest, Epix, if you can provide me with some more information in the comment section to this video, give me a bit more information. I might be able to help you try to figure out which camera is best for you. Or if you want to sit down with me for an hour, I have a consultation service down below for $50, and that gives you up to an hour to ask me questions, and we can go back and forth. So that's another option as well. Gavin asks, Would you recommend going from the EOS R to the Sony a7 III? Well, this is kind of like the first question, a very simple question, but there's a lot I need to dig through here. So first of all, you're switching platforms or systems. So the one thing I would ask you is, do you have a lot of glass on the Canon system? And some of that glass can be, depending on which model you go to, can be brought over using a speed booster, but speed boosters aren't cheap. They're almost the price of a lens. The other thing is, if you're looking at leaving the EOS R, which is an old camera, for the a7 III, which is also an old camera, I might suggest that you kind of sit back and wait maybe 6 months or so, because here's what's rumored to be coming out in 2021. We're supposed to be getting 2 entry-level full-frame mirrorless cameras for the Canon R system. So one that's designed to replace the EOS RP, and it's supposed to be cheaper than the EOS RP. So I imagine, excuse me, that camera is going to be somewhere around $899 or less. And then there's going to be another one that's placed between, well, the R6 and the RP where it's at now, or maybe the EOS R. So that's something else to keep an eye out on the Canon side of things, and that could give you what you're looking for. But also, sometime around the first or second quarter, Sony is supposed to be coming out with the a7 IV. There were some rumors we're supposed to see it this quarter, but, well, October's already passed, and November, well, we've just got a few days left. So I'm kind of hesitant. I don't think we're going to see the a7 IV this year. I think most likely Q1 or Q2 of 2021. So that covers off that aspect. Let me see. Let me look at your question again. Yeah, so both of those are getting refreshed in 2021. I believe both are on sale right now. I've seen sales for both cameras, so there's an opportunity to strike. But you've really... The most important thing about any system is not necessarily the body itself, but the actual glass. So I'd want to know what kind of glass you actually have right now. That could play a huge role in this, because glass matters more than the bodies. Your glass, especially the R system, that's going to be around for probably decades. So any glass that you buy for it now, and all the EF and EFS lenses will carry right over to it. So that's a big thing there. Sony has a lot of glass as well, and I'm pretty sure that the a7 IV is going to continue with the same mount. Sony's not going to change that. But if you're moving over to the Sony system, then you're starting from scratch, so that's something to consider. Joe Doc asks, why have modern smartphone cameras so much better dynamic range than the latest Sony or Canon cameras? How could that possibly be? Well, how could it be? Well, it's not necessarily that these smartphone cameras have better dynamic range. It's that they use computational power, and they use it an awful lot. I believe, I don't know too much about the Android the smartphones, but I believe the latest one from Apple, when you take a picture, it can take up to 12 pictures. So it'll take 12 pictures right away. And one of those will be focused on dynamic range, another one will be focused on exposure, or several will be focused on exposure, and different types, each image is focused on something else, and then what they do, they stitch it together, and it produces a very, very good image. And, well, we can't really do that with our R5s and our R6s or our Sonys. Now, there are some capabilities to shoot, for example, 20, 30, 40, 50, however many photos, and then stitch them together later. So, for example, if you're taking a picture of a forest, it's called focus peaking. You can take a whole bunch of images and then stitch them together, and then the whole image is in focus. But these are done in post, not within the camera. So computational power will play a very huge role in that, does play a very huge role in that, and it is going to continue to play a role in that. And you're also likely going to start seeing more of that in these cameras. What we're starting to see right now, when we talk about artificial intelligence, we're not seeing about the whole suite of artificial intelligence. What we're starting to see is little pockets of that, like machine learning. We're starting to see machine learning everywhere in all types of software, in photo apps, for example. We're starting to see it in cameras more. That plays a huge role in autofocus. So computational power is really the answer to your question there, Joe Doc. And a second question from Joe Doc. I want to buy a new camera. Is it better to order it Black Friday or Cyber Monday? So first of all, you want to take a look at what it is you want, what your price range you're willing to pay. And it's kind of like baseball. You've got 3 strikes. So the first strike is Black Friday, Cyber Monday. You've got that weekend. And then as we get up close to Christmas, we've got that month of December leading right up till about January the 1st. We have the next big batch of sales. And then sometimes in the new year, depending on camera companies, sometimes right around May, we might see other sales, which are usually somewhere between or around Father's Day and Mother's Day. I've seen Canon just offer like $500 off certain lenses. So I can't tell you which is going to be the best. These companies don't consult me, and you know, every year changes. This year being very different in itself. So I was looking at buying some SSDs, and I did order one today, but I stayed up late last night till midnight. Nothing. I mean, there were some sales, but nothing that I was super excited about. It was still $750 Canadian for a 4 terabyte Evo Samsung SSD. And a lot of the other deals weren't that great. Now, you could get a 2 terabyte Samsung Evo for $200 US, so there were some sales. But then this morning, oh boy, there were a ton of sales. So Black Friday is a big day, and unfortunately by the time you're watching this, it's Saturday. But then you have Cyber Monday. The thing is, you got to keep watching. You don't know when these sales are going to happen, but right from about Black Friday right the way to about January the 1st, this is when you want to be watching for sales. Historically speaking, Canon and others come out and they offer deep discounts. Well, not deep discounts, but they'll throw discounts of $200, $300, $400, $500 on certain lenses. I'm not seeing that this year. I'm seeing maybe $50 or $100 off lenses and bodies. And all the new stuff that's come out, A7S III, R5, R6, there's not a sale at all. However, what I do recommend is reach out to your local camera company, because they can, or retailer, they can lower prices. I've been dealing in Canada, and if you're in Canada, Downtown Camera, I deal with Patrick, and if you want to see if you can knock a few dollars off, give Patrick a call, tell him I sent you, and most likely he'll help you out somehow. He's very good with customer service. But yeah, definitely now's the time. I know, verbal diarrhea, I'm going on too far. Thanks for your question, Joe Doc. The Machronicle asks, have you tried the iPhone 12 Pro Max? If so, what do you think about it for a tool for the ordinary filmmaker? I haven't tried it. I am familiar with it. I've watched Apple's propaganda / keynotes. And I got to tell you, I was completely gobsmacked by the computational power and the raw computing power of this. It's one thing when you use the processing power to create effects, but it's when you've got that much raw processing power there, what they're able to do with it, they're not wasting any cycles. It's pretty impressive. So is it okay for the ordinary filmmaker? See, here's the thing. As a filmmaker and photographer, what we do is we grab the tools off our bookshelf, we put them in the bag, and we put the right tools in the bag to get the job done. Using the iPhone 12 or any camera, I don't care if it's 3 megapixels, 2 megapixels, 100 megapixels, using it as a creative tool, go for it. Try it out. I think that the iPhone produces incredible video results. Now, again, you're going to have a limitation. You don't have the lenses. You're not going to be able to replicate results of these full-frame cameras or cinema cameras with these incredibly expensive lenses. You can't quite simulate that with computational power. There's just too much effort involved. But to take an iPhone 12 Max, you're shooting in daylight, you're capturing scenes, putting together a movie, I think you can get incredible results. And there was actually a movie producer or director, and what he did is he used, I think it was an iPhone 7, 8, or 9, or 10 maybe, I think it was an older one, and he produced an entire movie using iPhones. Now when you watch it, it's got a certain look. It doesn't look like a theatrical movie. It looks like, if you could imagine downloading The Matrix off one of those illegal sites, and it's not in 4K, it's not in 2K, it's not in 1080. In fact, it's pretty grainy, and it's kind of washed out a bit. That can still look good. It can still work. So yeah, it can work. It can produce really good results. There have been times when I've been out shooting, or not shooting, out walking with my family, and my son does something crazy. I don't have my camera with me. Well, I take out my iPhone and grab it. And from the iPhone 7 onwards, it was producing really good results, terrific results. So I'm very happy with that. Do you think there's any hope we'll see 4K 60 RAW on external recorders like the Ninja 5 for the EOS R6 or R5? Thanks for your time. Canon would have to give us an update to give us 4K RAW. Only then would you be able to output. And yeah, the external recorder could handle it. There's no reason to stop it. The upper limit on these external recorders is 4K 60. There's no reason why 4K 60 RAW couldn't work, or 4K RAW. And you know what? It'd be really cool to see that, especially if it sported Cinema Raw Lite. I myself haven't even tried recording in RAW at this point. Me personally, I don't see the point to it. I'm not saying there isn't a good use for it. It's just for the use cases I do, I'm just still getting over the detail I get by shooting at 8K downsample to 4K, and that's in the 4K HQ mode on the R5. I'm just staggered by the detail there. It's just, it's stunning. Now, if you're shooting with the R5 at something like 2.2 or 2.5 and an f-stop, then you're not going to see it as much. But when you're shooting at f11 or something like that, the amount of detail is just staggering. So yeah, 4K RAW is an option, but only if Canon provides that in a firmware update. And as far as rumors goes, there's nothing about that. I know that Sony does 4K RAW, so if you want 4K RAW, you might have to be looking to the A7S III. Mohammed asks, I want to start a YouTube channel, but due to the severe lockdown and constant bad weather here in the UK, I'm scared I won't be consistent. What's your advice? Well, I would move, because this time of year, the UK is going to have just terrible weather all the time. I'm British, I'm from the UK. I know I don't sound like it anymore, but I've lived in UK, New Zealand, United States, and Canada, so if you listen carefully, you'll hear a little bit of different dialects in my voice. But seriously, so Mohammed, one thing to really understand here is when you first start out, unless you actually have training in producing movies and television shows and stuff like that, if you don't have training for that stuff, being in front of the camera the first time, you're going to be terrible. You're not going to speak right. You're going to have problems with lighting. You're going to have problems with editing. There's so much to learn. And I don't want to scare you away. Go look at everybody you watch. Look at my first video. Look at Peter McKinnon, especially Peter McKinnon, because he's so polished now, produces incredible results. But you go ahead and look at his first video. Go look at all your favorite YouTubers' first videos, and you'll see how bad they were. And what that should help you do is realize, you know what? Don't wait. Just start doing it. Start filming. Now, what really makes a bit of difference is where you shoot. Because I'm shooting in the basement, it's always dark here. So I can control the lighting. I don't care what's going on outside, whether there's a snowstorm. So whether you have really damp and rainy weather, no matter what's going on, it doesn't matter, because you control that with your set. So that's one thing that matters. Don't worry about spending tons of money on gear right away. Work with what you've got, because I got to tell you something else too. When I first started, I was afraid my friends and family would just start making fun of me. But here's the thing, they're not going to find you. Even if they are into the same thing that you're in, like my friends were into cameras, they didn't find me. They still can't find me, because I'm not big enough to get, based on the algorithm, thrown out there to everybody. And what YouTube does is kind of like raising a child. It gives you more and more responsibility the bigger you get. They won't just take your videos and say, okay, everybody, take a look. Here's Mohammed. What do you think? It doesn't happen that way. So the one thing I would like to coach you in on is just tomorrow or today, if it's early enough, go out there and shoot your first video. Just keep it to 2 or 3 minutes. Put it out there and take a look at it. What would you like to fix and work on next time? And every video you do, work on something. Don't produce a video every month, every 2 weeks, every week. When you're starting out, try to produce at least 3 videos a week, because the more you produce, the quicker you produce it, the more you're going to learn and the quicker you're going to learn. I also recommend watching this video here. It's about when I got to my first 100 subs, and while the thumbnail looks like it's all about getting to your first 100 subs, it's far more than that. It talks about the business architecture, about your vision, understanding your goals and objectives, because what that does is it gives you a guiding star. It gives you rails to stay on and a focus, because if you're just doing all sorts of different things all the time, your channel doesn't have focus. People might come for one video, but then they'll leave because, well, that was that video, but he's obviously not focused on whatever that is. So it helps to have a common theme, all sorts of things. It's about your theme, it's about your set, it's about how you present, it's about your thumbnails, it's about your logo, it's about your intro. There's so many things. You can't do it all at once. And just start, and like I said, go back, look at some of my first videos, then jump ahead every month and watch a video, and you'll notice there's a definite change and a definite improvement. And with those improvements, so came the viewers and subscribers. And if you have any other questions, or if you want to know a bit more, consider one of my consultations down below. They're $50 US, and I spend an entire hour walking you through. It's like a drink from the fire hose, things you need to do, and it'll really help get you focused and started. Rumor Has It asks, now that Canon has adopted AI autofocus with such success, do you think the next step is AI image manipulation like computational photography used by Apple? You know, it's amazing how each week the questions seem to come together in a theme. I talked about computational power at the beginning of this video, and that's a very good point. Personally, rumor has it, I would love to see that. I really would. I think it's going to happen. I think it's going to come slowly. These camera companies, they're big corporations, and they don't move very quickly. So I would expect over the next couple of years, we're going to start to see more computational power for images and also photography as well. It's already amazing what machine learning is doing, as you said, for autofocus. It's truly amazing. So I think it's definitely coming. If the past is any indication, the 5 series cameras usually got updated every 3 to 4 years. So you'd have quite a bit of a long wait. Waytech says, I have a question about setting the bitrate for editing videos with Premiere Pro. I'm editing 4K video files from 2 cameras at different bit rates, 100 megabits per second or 120 megabits per second. What's the preferred bit rate to use so that it won't dip in quality when rendering? Thanks. Oh, I need more questions here. I'm going to make the assumption that your actual project is in 24, 25, or 30 frames per second, and that you're using these for slow motion. That's one possible scenario. And if that's the case, most people, unless you have them back to back, they're not going to notice the difference. Go like, oh, look, he just shot that in 100 frames per second. And look, now he's doing it in 120 frames per second. You won't get away with it. That scenario, you're perfectly fine. But if you're producing the Gemini Man, and you're getting some in 120 and some in 100, it's not ideal. It's definitely not ideal. You want them all shot in the same frame rate because you can get skipped frames. You can have things look a little choppy at times. And I don't know. There can be issues both ways, but it depends on your audience too. Are you producing some sort of theatrical movie or show for theater? Because there you want to have it in the same bitrate. You don't want there to be a chance of anything going wrong. But if this is more for ordinary filmmaker type stuff, then it's not going to be as big of an issue. But here's the thing. If you decide to set your project to 100 frames per second and then you bring in video that's 120, the actions, you're either going to, one of two things is going to happen, whether you have your project 100 or 120 frames per second. You do it in 100, the 120 is going to seem a little slower. You do it in 120, the 100 is going to seem a little faster. A good example of this is if you've ever watched old footage from like the 1920s, 1930s, and you wonder why everybody's running around really quickly. Well, it's because back then they were shooting with something like 16 frames per second. So that's an over-exaggeration of what can happen. But yeah, if your project is 24, 25, or 30 frames per second, not a problem. But if it's 100 to 120, yeah, it might be a bit of an issue. And the thing to do is try it out, see how it looks, see if you're happy with it, and go from there. And a second question from Epix. I'm deciding between the F2.8 and F4 version of the RF 70-200. Do you think that an F4 lens paired with the RP would be good for shooting concerts in low light? I know I'd have to bump up the ISO, but modern cameras can handle ISO without much noise, right? Are F2.8 lenses worth the extra $1,000 over F4 lenses? So we've really got a couple of things going on here. The difference between an F2.8 and an F4 is not just low light performance, but it's also depth of field. So those are those two creative things you're working with here. Let me ask you this. Is this a profession of yours? Are you doing this as a hobby? Are you making money off this? If it's a profession or you're making money off this, spend the extra $1,000. You're going to appreciate it. It's going to be money in your pocket. If it's a hobby, well, that F2.8 is going to make a difference. It makes a huge difference. Yes, cameras are more sensitive. And I'll give you an example. I was shooting video outside. It was pitch dark outside. There was some clouds, but it was mostly just open sky and it wasn't a full moon. I had these LED lights around the outside of the garden, but it was so dark that I couldn't see things on the ground. I actually used my camera to look through the viewfinder, it's not the viewfinder, the LCD, to see things on the ground. It was basically a Halloween trick-or-treat thing that we did at the house. Well, I was using the 50mm f1.2, and that difference of that 1.2, I couldn't have shot with my 24-105 at f4. It would have been terrible in that low light. So if you're really dealing with like low light at night, then yeah, that f2.8 is going to make the world of difference, and I think you're going to regret going with the f4 version. And our last question is from Jacqueline. What type of photographer are you, and what got you into photography? What tips and tricks can you share about your journey as a photographer? This happened when I was 37. And two things happened. I bought a camera and a car at the same time, and this is the car that I bought. It was a red Corvette. It was a C6, came out in 2008. No, it's 2008 model. And here's other angles of it. And I love this car. It wasn't so much because I love cars, and I do. It was because I could take the top off and I could feel the air just coming over top. I felt like I was outside in the air. I didn't feel like I was in the car. And this allowed me to travel. But after a while, you get bored of driving around, right? Well, at that time, I had the Canon 50D. And I would ask myself questions like, why don't I go to Whiteface Mountain in New York? Or what about Mount Washington? Yeah, let's do Mount Washington this weekend. Or Portland, or Thousand Islands. And that first year I bought that car, I took 5 weeks off, and every weekend I called up a friend and said, hey, I'm going here, you want to join me? And I took the camera there and I took pictures everywhere I went. And this is one shot of Lake Placid right here. Just a gorgeous, gorgeous shot. I didn't know what I was doing. I just snapped the picture back then. I wasn't a great photographer. But one of the key things you learn as a photographer, one of the tips, is sometimes do a little bit of spraying and praying. You don't know what you're going to end up with. Yes, you want to learn what f-stop is. Yes, you want to learn about ISO. You want to learn about exposure. All these things are important, but don't just take one picture or two pictures and then think you've got it. Because when you look in that viewfinder or you look in that LCD and it looks good, it isn't always. You can take it back to the computer and realize, whoa, that was out of focus. So take a bunch of shots. You can never take too many in the digital world. So I went driving around, and here's some more shots. So this is actually me driving in the car. That's kilometers an hour, not miles an hour. And this is me approaching Mount Washington. And once I got up there, and now another car shot. And I didn't do this all the time. I wasn't taking car shots everywhere I went. But it was just to show that, yes, I didn't buy the sports car to have it sit in a garage and look pretty. I drove it. I took it places. I wasn't afraid to drive it up Mount Washington. And if any of you have actually driven up Mount Washington, let me know in the comment section below. You know what I'm talking about. It's very steep. They don't have guardrails. And let me show you this picture here. Look at this. At the edge of that road, it's a 2,000-foot drop. 2,000 feet drop. You're not coming back from that. And on the way down, you want to make sure you've got good brakes. Now, I thought I'd be terrified driving down, not up. But I put my car in first gear, and basically I never touched the brakes. Once in a while I'd tap the brakes a little bit, but I was able to go. And that's the thing, if you're going to drive that mountain, having a standard car really, really helps because it takes the pressure off the brakes. But that was an incredible journey, really incredible journey. For me, travel is what inspires me. It's capturing life as it happens. And I think that is really what really pushed me. And of course, as you travel, you try different things. Now, first I started off with a general purpose lens, like an 18-135. I think back then it was like an 18-88 or 87. And then I got my first expensive L series lens. I got the 100 macro f2.8. And I've read reviews saying it was a great portrait lens. But I had the 50D, which is a crop sensor, so that 100 actually became 160. And good luck trying to take portrait shots with a 160 millimeter equivalent. But I turned lemons into lemonade. I started, well, let's take a look at the world of the small. And I started taking pictures of things such as mosquitoes and wasps and bees as they were pollinating. And I got some really incredible results. When you're that close to something, and at f2.8, the entire background is completely blurred, and it was a lot of fun. And the next tip, I guess I would say, is just if you're bored, like now, nothing to do, if there's trails close by your house, or just get out, walk. take the camera with you. Maybe do a look on YouTube or read some articles about some type of photography you want to try doing. Maybe try street photography. Try doing black and whites. And you just got to get out there. You just got to try different things. But yeah, it was travel for me. It was travel in a car and, you know, taking a friend with me and going places. It was an awful lot of fun. But that's it for another week. I can't believe another week. We're entering December now. 2020 just seems like it's been a complete blur. It's like I've lost an entire year of my life. It's not like I haven't done something. YouTube channel, hello. But time has felt so strange. It's kind of like a Doctor Who episode where you got that timey-wimey thing, and that's what 2020's felt like, is timey-wimey. 2021. I hope she's a darn sight better than 2020, and I hope you have a much better 2021 too. I'm going to keep producing videos throughout the Christmas break, depending on what comes out. We got lots of sales on camera gear, there's lots going on, but I think things are going to start to really heat up in the last week of December, going into January. Who knows, we might get some wonderful news from Nikon. But that's it for now. Thanks so much for watching The Ordinary Filmmaker. Don't forget to subscribe for your chance to win the Synco Lav S6E and the M3 shotgun microphones. I'll be giving these two microphones away to one lucky viewer once the channel reaches 20,000 subscribers. And then for every 10,000 subscribers or so thereafter, all the way up to 100,000, I'll be giving away a different and better prize. Until 100,000, at which point I'll be giving away a brand new Canon EOS R5 full-frame mirrorless camera to one lucky viewer. And on that bombshell, thanks so much for watching The Ordinary Filmmaker. We'll see you again soon.